welcome to B3U. And I have with me the Miss Beautiful Naomi. Naomi, how are you?
Hi, it's Naoki.
Naoki!
It's okay, but Naomi is the equivalent. It's the girl's name. I actually have a Japanese man's name.
Oh,
Uh yes, I'm a quarter Japanese, so watashi wa Naoki desu. Dozo yoroshiku. That means hi, my name is Naoki. It's nice to meet you. So that'll be part of our more in-depth and deep conversation because all this ethnic mix kind of there's some stuff out there that we're missing with all of this stuff for us as people. So
yes. Amazing. So before we begin, how are you holding up as a mother right now? We all know your situation. Well, my viewers don't know, but tell us how you're holding up and tell us a little bit about your story and your son, Jaden.
so we'll have to go back to the sixth grade. We moved here from Verina. I used to live over out that way, and he had a really supportive environment. My son is 16 years old now, but he has autism, and being a young man of color with autism, he's got some additional challenges that might not necessarily be obvious because he's high functioning. So his emotional issues are the ones that are more prevalent. So because he's not speech or language delayed, there's a preconceived notion with some people in the current school system in Petersburg that, and I quote, ain't nothing wrong with him that a good ass whipping can fix. And so I take explicit offense to that because I'm also autistic. So are his brother and his sister. So having to fight the school system when I left Verina, coming here and let him know that Jaden is autistic. Now, Jaden is a little bit gifted because Jaden also plays acoustic guitar. He was being taught by his brother, who is also self-taught and in a band. So, it was the juxtaposition of seeing what my child can do as opposed to their perception of my child when he has like executive shutdown. If there's too much stimulus, Jaden will shut down. He will go to sleep like a baby. So I'm constantly having to fight these people who are telling me ain't nothing wrong with him because the prevalent attitude amongst my own constituency here in Petersburg is that if you're black, they can talk to you and your children however they want to because part of our demographic is, oh girl, it take a family. But you're not my family.
Right.
And when you don't have the same values I have as far as my family, when you have a whole nother background I'm not familiar with, then I don't have a level of comfort in an assumption that just because we're black, we believe the same things. Like my son, initially, my daughter has some friends who are trans, and so we're P flag. We support things, even though we may not agree with whatever lifestyle. Each and every life is to be respected. So he went to stand up for a young lady who identifies as trans, and at first, before finding out that it was the child of color standing up for this other person, because he knows that his sister has a friend who's trans, who is an adult, who he understands. So he feels a sense of obligation to protect other people. Meanwhile, he's been victimized. So immediately the school, that's the first call of the year, is that Jaden's problematic, but I know better. So I get there and there's just these constant steps of it's difficult for me because here in an environment where he's predominantly amongst other people of color, I would have expected a better attitude. But it's not. We
Right.
have them using language like when the children are in trouble, you go in for a meeting or you're fighting for an IEP meeting where they're saying, well, what makes you think he's autistic? Well, first of all, we won't even get into my qualifications as to why, as a licensed clinical social worker in the past, I could administer the same Wexler that I'm needing you to give to my child. But I don't feel that it should always have to be a battle because everyone in the administrative staff wants to take the low road. They don't want to work. They want to not pay attention to parents being in the hallways while the classes are changing and overhearing these negative attitudes. And they're talking to the children probably the same way they talk to their children, but I don't talk to my child like that.
Right.
And
Right.
so going back to the 6th grade, this young man who assaulted my son, it started in 6th grade. They were in the bathroom and he airdropped a picture of my son's penis to other students, having told them he was going to do it. Oh, I'll get a picture of his, you know what, using all the language that young kids like to experiment with when they're not at home. And so he did. He airdropped a picture of my son's penis. So initially, we had I think it was the middle school principal from Short Pump. So they took a white woman from the middle of of an affluent environment and stuck her in Petersburg for a few weeks. I'm sure she has
Wow.
PTSD because I was not the parent to mess with. When I showed up, I said, I'm gonna need you to show me the phone when my son sent a picture of his penis to anyone. My son does not even change clothes, hated the idea of dressing out for PE, is autistic. Body shaming is an issue with us. He
Mhm.
scars to where, we have dogs and we have grass and we have land. He goes out, plays with the dogs. Anything that bites him puts scars on his legs. So he's very sensitive about his whole body appearance. So when I challenged her, then all of a sudden, oh, we're sorry. So
Mhm.
again,
So
Jaden,
now let me ask you, Naoki. So you said you have mixed races. So you're indigenous,
yes,
Japanese.
yes, Creole. I'm from Louisiana, so I'm French, Black, Irish, Italian,
Okay.
Algerian, yeah, and
Okay.
Japanese. So when
And
they talk,
and your son as well, right? So your
exactly,
so
and
this kid, this young boy, his race is
he's white,
okay.
and
Okay.
understanding that. I am empathetic to the fact that this is a young white student in a predominantly Black school. But I would have been more empathetic had he been the one not doing the victimizing. Now, the young man, unfortunately, his mother has passed from drugs. His father is in jail for drugs, and his grandfather is the custodial parent, and that he's too busy being a friend. So these things, they kept going. And so from 6th grade with the picture of the penis, then it was in the 8th grade, another bathroom altercation where he tells Jaden that he's going to come to the house and kill Jaden and rape me. So Jaden
Mhm.
said, if you come to my house, I'll shoot you. So then I'm back at school again because my son has expressed the fact that he's going to protect his mother. So Jaden gets suspended. This kid gets suspended. Then we move up into 8th grade. So the final coup de grace is a picture of Jaden having a bowel movement that he airdrops again. And so I pulled Jaden out of school. I took him to District 19 for counseling because when I asked if he could go speak to the school counselor at the high school, or excuse me, oh yeah, this was at the middle school. Excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. At the middle school, the counselor basically was not interested. Oh, well, he needs some psychological assistance. So he had already been on the exceptional family member program having autism. None of the resources that should have been available for him as an autistic student were available other than having extra time to take his test, which none of the teachers wanted to implement because it takes time away from the rest of the classroom. So he's been beat up by teachers and beat up by students for being slow, retarded. I don't have time for you to have you test with you gonna test with everybody else. I don't have time for you to be slow.
Wow. And this is in the city of Petersburg.
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
when I took Petersburg, Vernon Johns Middle School to the school board, all of a sudden everybody becomes complicit and backing down because during COVID, while he was at home with me, he was an honor roll student. While he's there being abused by other students and bullied, he can't get his work done because he's autistic. And then they schedule IEP meetings when they want to. And then I had to deal with an alcoholic case manager who shows up reeking, eyes bloodshot, jaundiced, and then is constantly attacking me in the IP. Is that a personal attack? And then you can see on the video when you walk out of the school, the man comes up to hug me afterwards. So being gaslit while my son's being abused, I pulled him out of school. Then the beginning of 9th grade year, I let them know he's not coming to school until I have a safety plan at the high school. Well, at the time, Mrs. The student in question's name is, he's already been charged. So I don't know what if there's any legalities about releasing the name of a minor, but a minor that has attempted to murder another child, people need to know who he is and keep their children safe from him in Petersburg because he is still at school.
Oh
So
wow.
After this incident, I guess they expelled him for whatever reason, so he wasn't there at the beginning of ninth grade. He came back to school with the intent to seek revenge on Jaden because me being a big mouth, his mom's big ass mouth is part of the reason I got kicked out of school, so I'm gonna fuck him up. So students knew
Oh,
about this. Students knew
mhm.
about this working up to it. So Paul gets back this year in 10th grade, and Jaden has already chosen his auto shop block.
So
When I
we're talking 4 years.
Yes, ma'am, from 6th grade to 10th grade because he was gone for the majority of ninth grade, but Jaden was already picked on by the other members of that little group. So the ringleader comes back this year, and I find out that they're in the same fourth block class, and I write a note. I write a note and call the school and let them know I want Jaden out of that class. I don't like that child. That child is not properly supervised. And all he did was get a break from school. He's still a bully. So Jaden and Paul get into an altercation in the classroom a few weeks back, leading to the fourth block teacher taking it upon himself to go and get my personal address, violate PII and the Privacy Act of 1974, get my address, and instead of telling other administrators what had occurred, the man shows up to my house to talk to my minor child without me present. Sends me a message via text to message or text now, text wow, some application. If you are a teacher and you do not have a means by which your parents can contact you during the day, then you don't go anywhere. You damn sure don't show up at my house.
Right, right,
So then
right.
when I called the police department to let them know and make an incident report and call the school, I got no reaction. So this is the same fourth block in which he and Paul have had this altercation, in which Paul decides, well, whatever happened prompted this teacher to come to my house to talk to my son, not me. Pulled my minor child out on my porch to talk to him. So I called the police. I called the school. No one got back to me until this incident that occurred on the 2nd of October. So Paul has had this time to build up his revenge against Jaden. So for 2 weeks prior to that, pretended he and Jaden were friends, comes by, him and Grandpa are picking Jaden up, driving him to school together. Well, on the 2nd of October, he took Grandpa's other vehicle, a white Mustang, having only a learner's permit after he had told other children, I'm going to beat his black ass to death and let him drown. That nigger's not going to reach 16. Drove him
Mhm.
out to a waterfall, knew to cross over from Petersburg to Chesterfield County to commit said crime. Drives my son to the waterfall, and after consuming marijuana like idiots, because Jaden thought all his friends were going to meet him for his birthday. So my kid wasn't perfect, but my kid did not deserve to almost be murdered. So this child lured him out with the marijuana, lets him know, oh, okay, we got to smoke together. Oh, Jaden's asking where the other kids are going to be. Well, first we got to smoke for this pack. They smoke marijuana, and apparently the young man gets too high to fully execute his plan to kill my son because my son
So
can fight back.
let me get a little clarity. Jaden went along with him even though he was a foe, thinking
Yes.
he was a
And
friend.
believe and think, yes, believe it. Oh, well, we've matured and
Ah,
we buried this hatchet. So my son is trying to step forward and be an upstanding young man. But meanwhile, young
so
Mr.
he wanted to
Paul,
be friends. He wanted
exactly.
to
He
be
wanted
friends.
to do the right thing and move forward and have that little shop class together. So he's taking the opportunity to talk to Paul about cars, which are a favorite thing of his. So his autism button is pressed and it's in a good way. So he's
Right.
sharing all the information about these cars and all this good stuff with Paul. Meanwhile, Paul is letting other kids know, hey, send me some gas money because I'm gonna beat his ass.
Wow. So he takes him out to a park.
Takes him out to a park to a waterfall, commences just beating Jaden and let him know, I'm gonna beat your black ass and let you drown. Proceeds while he's beating him to let him know that the house we live in, because I don't live in Crater Square apartments, I don't live in a trailer park. Not that those are bad places to live, but that's not where we live. So he's angry that my black son has more than him, has a parent, But rather than wanting to be my son's friend and see that there's enough mom in me to go around, and it doesn't matter what color you
Mhm.
are, you're welcome in my home if you're a friend of my child. And that has been the way all my children are raised. He
Mhm.
has an issue with what life has dealt him because of the choices that his family made. But he's taken them out on my child, so much so since sixth grade, and then tells my son, well, you were easily fuck withable. That was new language for me because my son wore cowboy boots and a cowboy hat because, as indigenous, Afro indigenous people from Texas and Louisiana, that might be what we wear.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, we do on my uncle's farm, we do get on horses and we
Right.
do break other horses. And we got a whole hog farm. I'm not wearing sneakers on a hog farm. I'm sorry. The poop boots is the boots that's getting worn on the farm. So my children have been exposed to country life as Afro Indigenous people. So urban urban ignorance is not something he's akin to, but
Right.
he's well versed with all kinds of music. So then it was the week before he wore a Metallica t-shirt, and so
Mhm.
the young man assumed that because my son was black, my son could not
Mhm.
listen to Metallica. He's like, that's my mom's favorite band.
Look, my Metallica, don't get me started with
Come
James.
on.
That's good. What?
Come on, honey. That's our look. That is our deployment grind music. We
Yes.
know the hero
The
of the
whole
day. We
album
know we
One
coming
was
up.
my favorite.
Yes,
One was
yes,
my
yes.
favorite
One.
album.
Ooh, yes. Come on, and they don't understand that at our age in the 80s and 90s, we were getting along. We was doing a lot of good things. MC Hammer, everybody loved him. When we were in school, everybody was trying to get along. We were holding hands, hands across America. We was all giving everybody a Coke and a smile. This degenerate backtracking happened somewhere in the mid 90s.
Right. So let's get to the whole part while we are currently fundraising for Jaden because he took your son out to the park, had
Yes.
him smoke
Yeah.
a substance, weed,
Yeah.
marijuana,
And
and what happened?
then he proceeded to start to beat him to death, and his intent was to beat him to death and push him in the waterfall and let him drown. And had I not put my son in jujitsu,
Mm,
this young man is 5'7". He's as tall as me and weighs 270 pounds. My
mm,
baby is 5'4", 5'5", 109 if.
mm,
So if you could imagine the equivalent of a whole nother parent beating
mhm.
my child. And he got away and he found a young man running on the runner's path. And had it not been for those good Samaritans, we might, on October 3rd, on my baby's 16th birthday, he might have been missing.
Wow.
And my problems lie not only with the school system that let it happen, but the inability between two jurisdictions to serve a protective order. As of yet, to date, the no contact order that the magistrate in Petersburg felt strongly enough to issue for a minor has not been delivered, and that child has been at school and other students have seen him. And so I need assistance in getting and retaining a lawyer that will fight the school system with me and the police because my child is not protected. This has been going on, and no matter what, the police didn't do anything about the teacher showing up, neither did the school system. So, as a survivor of rape,
Mm,
I don't know what this man's background is. We've already had teachers removed from the school system for abusing special needs students. So if
mhm.
it's good enough for this other young man to say he's going to show up at my house and rape me and be expelled, then why isn't it good enough for that teacher to be suspended for coming to my house in violation of the Privacy Act of 1974? He was not entitled to pull my address out of those records and come to my house and confront my child. Then he failed to safeguard my child by not reporting that incident, and then approximately a week and a half later, that same child who has that incident in that class tries to kill my son.
And so nobody
No one.
has helped you.
No one. The
Why?
Chesterfield Police Department pressed charges against him, but that's it. I'm in limbo keeping my kid home every day. I got a barrage of phone calls for people who want to be reactive now, and only because my child's not at school. Not because they called the police department to get this child served, only because, well, Jaden missed fourth through fifth through sixth, whatever periods. Jaden's not at school. And the only person who's advocating for me is the attendance lady at his school, Miss Walker.
Okay. So I was going to ask, do you feel that the school district is showing neglect for
Yes.
his indifference, his
Let
race?
me tell you, at Vernon Johns, in the same time period in question, from 6th through 8th grade, they took all the special needs students and the behaviorally challenged students and they locked them in the gym and called it Leadership Academy. And those children had no grades for 2 9-week periods. And when I reported that to the school board, my son reported it again. It was all hush hush. It didn't get out of anybody. Not even, there were so many parents who weren't even aware that the reason their children didn't have grades in school was they had been locked up in the gym for Fight Club. They were letting children fight. And then when we found out, let the resource officer know what was going on, what did they do? They took the one officer who was the perfect advocate for the children. Officer Brown was wonderful. She advocated for those children because she grew up the same way, so she knew what they needed. And when she stood up for the children and stood against those facilitators that were in there mistreating those children, they took her off as a school resource officer. And guess who the high school resource officer is? The same ignorant, uneducated Officer Cuba who did the investigation in the 8th grade, talking about, well, when we take this to adjudication. I said, you will not use language like that about minor children, sir. You will not be setting these young princes and princesses up for a life of habitual crime. You are not going to use words like adjudicate because you are not a judge. And using words like adjudicate with me is up the wrong alley. I'm a mandated reporter. I will call CPS on every one of you facilitators in this room who can't facilitate. You can barely speak English and you want to ask me a question. No, sir. See, when I'm at home, my vernacular with my family, yeah, I ask a lot of questions at home. But when I put on my professional face, I will come and ask you for further details. See, I know the difference and how to present myself. But this is also the officer that told me my son was too busy trying to live a YN. And for all of our audience members who don't know what that means, a young nigger lifestyle.
Wow.
While he's in high water pants, presenting the worst of the worst to me, clothes too tight because he's so concerned about what he smells like that he can't do his job as an officer of the peace because he's not keeping the peace. Then he wanted to let me know how my son had threatened to shoot somebody. I said, my son can be suspended for threatening, but my son does have gun awareness. All of my children, I was a marksmanship instructor. My children have gun awareness training. They know not to mess with guns and guns are not to play with and all my guns are locked. But they do know that in the case of an emergency, if I unlock my gun case and you need to get to it, you know how to fire on an aggressor. Period. I am a responsible parent. But he's well, how do we know that Jaden doesn't have access to the weapon? I said, because he's sitting in front of you and he came and told. Because if he had access to a gun, he would have shot this kid because the kid keeps bullying him. Trust with the level of suicidality I've had to deal with in my child, that if he had access to my gun, he would have brought it to school and killed that boy, because none of them have even advocated for that boy to have mental health. I asked why they didn't have him evaluated by a forensic psychologist when he was suspended for this constant sexualization, because in most places, airdropping a picture of somebody else's penis would have gotten a child that age as a
Yes.
minor restricted from all electronic devices and monitored. That didn't happen because the school
Yes.
fails to follow up every time because they're overtaxed. They can't stand me because I show up and I'm not one of these disadvantaged, unengaged stripper moms from, look, they think I live right there in the square apartments, that I must be some kind of third-rate citizen. So I'm not even entitled as a woman of color to advocate for my child because of the
Wow.
presumption that where his bus stop is where he lives.
And that is so true what you say now. I live in another county where they do not tell. I mean, even a child, I have been fighting for my grandson, going to the school system up here in Hanover County, and it's like, where is your policies are so jacked up that you'd
Yes,
rather send a child to Georgetown or to one of these schools for defending themselves.
exactly. That's insane. My kid has been beat up. Look, the bus driver in 6th grade told him, your black ass doesn't live over there in those houses. Dropped him off at Crater Square.
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, when he wouldn't get off at the house closer, he's like, no, I live back there. So rather than come through to drop my child off, they drove my child back to Vernon Johns and left him there. I have a plethora of police reports from from when he started sixth grade to now.
And this is amazing. Not one person has reached out to try to help you. Let me ask you, the accountability that you're seeking from both the school district and what accountability? What do you want
But
from them
we
at
need
this point?
mental health safeguards for children. I'm
I agree.
tired of children getting suspended with no mandatory mental health care. I'm tired of the BS. You can talk to their parents all day.
Yes.
Johnny is
Hmm.
not going to timeout. His mother is dead. His father is in jail. His
Hmm.
grandfather is not going to put in the time that it takes to get to the
Hmm.
organic problems that this child has as to
I
why
agree.
he's picking on my child.
Hmm.
Mandatory mental health care. That is
I
the
agree with
only
that.
way.
I agree with that because my grandson was, he's a small kid and he was protecting himself from a well-known bully that
Exactly.
threw his little self all over. He would not back down, and we teach our children like, hey, don't worry about it until someone hits you, till somebody does something
Exactly.
to you. But when you have a bully that you've known for the longest
Yes. And
time,
it's a
but you
standing.
want to keep him on the football team so he doesn't get in
Exactly.
trouble,
Because he
but
gets
then
to commit domestic violence. So when he beats his wife, who's at fault? When he
and
grows
you
up to beat his wife and his neighbors, who's at fault? Those
right.
administrators who knew that he had these behaviors towards other children, and oh, but he's got a troubled life. We'll get him to someone who can talk about his troubled life. The football game is not healing him. And see, when we have people whose divested interests come from, oh, if we get him active in after school sports, do that after counseling.
Right.
Let
That's
that be a
correct.
modality of therapy after we get to the root cause of why he's abusing other children. See, we
Right.
got it backwards. We want to put him on the softball team, put him on the football team, because once he's involved in extracurriculars, he'll stop being a bully. No, because if he's
No.
getting bullied at home, maybe a forensic psychologist needs to know, hey, this family might look okay, but there's trouble in the home. Because let's face it, too, there are a lot of well to do children that have more strife in their home than some of our children that come from poor families. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, it's always having to do with us people of color.
That's
My
right.
child
Because
right now has a single parent,
yeah.
more attentive than anyone of these two parent households who are constantly fighting, getting arrested because they're beating each other in front. And I'm trying to understand how, if you know that mom's name looks like it's Methany, and you know she's coming in scratching her scabs from heroin, or teeth are all smoked out from meth, but she at the school every day. Wouldn't you call CPS because you see this mother who is obviously struggling? Because
Mhm.
if nothing else, using CPS for what it was meant for, it was meant to be
What it was meant for.
intercessory. It
Hmm.
was meant to be intercessory. Do you need additional benefits? But again, let's talk about our CPS workers who villainize these parents who actually need help. If someone
Hmm.
has substance abuse problems, look, I used to work at CSAC. I am a drug demand reduction coordinator by trade, as one of the hats I wore in the Marine Corps. If we villainize people instead of get them help, and provide the subsequent Al-Anon, Narcanon, the support to their families as a whole, if we don't start treating addictions and these familial breakdowns as a whole, this continues. The school bully got problems at home, so I'm supposed to feel
Hmm.
sorry for him because he killed my kid. I'm sorry, but as a parent, I'm going to struggle with that. But then when I'm able to detach myself from it and look through my clinician's eyes as a clinical social worker, which I had to stop because of stuff like this, because it is not enough for well-to-do parents to place their children in programs that perpetuate their bulliness by putting them in leadership positions. Now they're the lead bully.
Yes. Yes. And I so agree with everything that you're saying. Again, we have, said thank God, because my grandson was told, hey, meet me somewhere, but he did not experience what your son has experienced, where he was almost murdered. And this young man happened to was being raised by his grandmother as my grandson. I was not raising him, but me and my daughter was partnering raising him because he loves me. But I didn't bring him. We both, my sister, we both have served in the military,
Right?
and
And the
we
difference between us as grandparents, and
Mm-hmm.
these 70, 80-year-old grandparents with teenagers. That's
Mm-hmm.
insane. That would be like me telling my mother at 74 years old, I need you to raise my child. My mother has raised her children. My
Yes.
mother can assist with lecture and lore.
Yes.
But
Where?
for
Yes.
70-year-old people to be getting bullied by their own kids, because let's face it, their kids didn't do well. Let's be honest, and let's stop putting a pretty coating of icing on the poo-poo cupcake. Because the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line is the parents that failed now have relied on the parents that already raised them to do a job they're ill-equipped to do as geriatrics. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
raise a teenager that is already talking back and has an attitude and leave your car keys and effectively think that if you have already allowed this child to drive and you leave in car keys and you already know this child is prone to mischief, then you are part of the problem. And
Mm-hmm.
that, in this case, his grandfather. Because I know me as a grandmother right now, if I needed to jump in and help with the 6-year-old, but at 54, I'm a different grandma. I can help
Mm-hmm.
there. I have a 16-year-old child at
Yeah.
54, so I'm good. So I can
Mm-hmm.
assist other teenage parents because I also have grown children.
Mm-hmm.
But when
And
I'm
that, you know what?
67,
You know what? That is so me. I don't. My children are all capable of raising their own children. I am
exactly.
here to guide, lead, and
Thank
mentor,
you.
and
We
I'm here to
graduate to the
help.
leadership role that requires us to only set the footsteps. We have already raised them in the way, and they should abide. Abide.
Exactly.
I raised you
Exactly.
how I was supposed to raise you, and if you've not been to jail, thank you. Good
Yes.
job. So
Because
you should be capable of providing the same for your progeny.
what do they say? It takes a village to raise children. And I think if we all collectively came together to watch out for each other, this is why it sickens me to hear your story. And I'm so glad that you came on this platform to expose the wrongdoing, because I cannot believe, and in Petersburg now, mind you, because see,
Mm,
you're in the city, I'm in the
yes,
county, and it's
exactly.
totally different.
Totally, because when I was in Henrico County, let me tell you something, the resources, the teachers, anything that happened there, let me give a shout out to everyone at Verina High School who supported my babies through everything. When my
Mhm,
son left school to take care of me, let me tell you, my middle son, I had cancer. I had no one to take care of me. My child went to his guidance counselor and said, "Can I drop out of school? But I need assistance. I need to take my mother for
mhm,
treatment." Do you know that his guidance counselor assisted him with getting his GED so he could take me? So he actually
mhm,
graduated before his friends, but
mhm.
he was also instrumental in my recovery from cancer. So I know what can be done. But Petersburg City Schools is a festering hotbed of bad attitudes. They
Mhm,
don't. There's a handful of people who do care, but the general attitude is if those people speak up, they get ostracized.
mhm. And
And I
this is
Miss
why
Field
you have to be, this is why I talk
exactly.
about taking back your power, taking back your
And
control,
let me tell
because
you,
they
Miss
oppress you
Fields,
into fear.
yes, Miss Fields, the principal. I know had this gotten to her before, I had to call her on Friday, and I'm waiting to get back because she is the principal. When she stepped in when the stuff happened with Vernon Johns, I was grateful. Then they moved her to the high school because it's not good enough to leave the administrator that's cleaning up the mess in the middle school. No, we're gonna move her to the high school because the same problems that were there from sixth grade on. Oh, let's look at progression: sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. So you're just
Right.
going to move her with the problem children instead of allow her to build a framework to prevent this stuff from happening and bring in another force at the high school or reinforce the training there, piggyback off the middle school training. Do some kind of training where you can identify, hey, if this kid has a pattern of misconduct, require a forensic evaluation before they return to school.
Yes.
Three
Yes.
times strike, they need to see a psychologist. And
There you go.
that's not up to anybody else. If your child has a pattern of misconduct and has not been diagnosed with a disability under the DSM-5, then they will need to see a forensic psychologist to find out what the origin of their dysfunction is before they can safely return to school. This would have blocked out several school shootings.
Mm-hmm.
Because as
Yes.
we look back in retrospect, no school shooter has ever had a blemish-free record. They've either been bullied or been the bully.
That's right. That's
So
correct.
if we don't proactively, but then unfortunately, we're gonna have to get into the current climate. Current climate. Now we're taking away basic health care. What about these kids who do have, what about these kids who are substance abuse born, who have medication that they now can't
Mm,
pick up? How much is school violence going to escalate because these kids can't get their meds? Some of these children are on adult regimes of medicine.
yeah, you are speaking some facts
And the
today.
problem with that is too, why our healthcare at work or at school, our school nurses are not equipped for this. And if the
Mhm.
school psychologist is qualified to administer a test, maybe we need a little bit higher degree of psychologist. That same psychologist that considered the VA and write me a prescription for medication management. Because maybe these kids getting switched on medication not being reported in their weekly mood swings. Because if you change a child from Paxil to another drug, or if you change it from brand name Wellbutrin to the doggone generic, those are different fillers. Who's to say that they're going to respond appropriately? So if we know that, oh, this kid has a whole bunch of problems, but we don't have that document, and the school nurse doesn't know, hey, this week Johnny changed his medication, so he might be out of pocket. He might need to leave the classroom.
Mhm.
Because, see, they were quick when they wanted my kids on stimulants. And when I said, I'm not putting my child on methamphetamine so you can have more comfort in your classroom, because I
Right.
was already on it as an adult. Adderall is methamphetamine. And the withdrawal symptoms that children feel are the same as people withdrawing from meth. So when kids go without their ADD medication, they are withdrawing from clinical grade methamphetamine. But nobody
Mm,
wants to talk about that either. So we're building a
mhm.
society of addicted youth because we don't have the time to actually get to the bottom of the problem. So let's medicate him. Let's thwart his aggressiveness by putting him on some medication. Let's put him on Wellbutrin. Let's stack that with Adderall. Then we're going to stack that with Abilify because he can't function. Now he can't sleep because he's on stimulants. And let's create this cycle. So then Big Pharma is making a whole lot of money off poor
For a lot of
people
money.
yet again.
That's right.
Whole lot of money off Medicaid when talk therapy, ABA therapy, applied behavioral therapy amongst their peers, and a requirement for a 504 behavior plan and a psychological evaluation. See, if we stop using the IEP system and the 504 system as a punishment and use it as a preventative measure, because it is preventative. If your punishment is you have to get your kid evaluated since you're a non participating parent, then hold those parents accountable. See, because I know for me, I would have been 100%. You could have called the court on me because I took my child everywhere he needed to go when he started to display behaviors that I found were not
Mhm.
conducive with a happy child. But the
Right.
bullies, oh, well, he had to be taught to bully. Well, who's going to unteach him?